Hey guys, how's it going? Andalor here. I'm sorry if this video seems a little rushed. Uh, I figured out and learned of this happening while I was in the shower, getting ready to go to the gym. But I wanted and need to get this done and talked about quickly. I also didn't think I'd be making a video on almost the same subject a week after each other. But here we are. So, I'll link this article below, but the general gist, there are two main takeaways from this article. First, uh, the Rules Committee for Commander is going to hand over their management to the design team of Wizards of the Coast. Now, there's a lot to say about this, but the first thing I need to bring up is why it happened. It didn't happen because Magic the Gathering disagreed with their choices. Not in the slightest. The reason that the Rules Committee made the decision to hand over their powers, or most of them, to Wizards of the Coast is because there is a specific subsection of the community that was sending death threats to the Commander Rule Committee. I don't think, and I didn't think, that I would ever need to say this, but that's just not okay. Alright? It doesn't matter how much money you might have lost. It does not matter. There is no justification. It does not matter. I do not care what you say. I do not care if you have 3,000 mana crypts in your possession and you lost all of your money on them. I do not care. There is no reasonable action that they could have taken for you to send death threats to anyone, let alone the people that are actively, in their own ways, attempting to make a for fun format more fun. All right? Regardless of if you agree with the means and reasoning behind what the Rule Committee has done in the past, that has no bearing on your ability or reason to send them death threats. Nothing. That being said, I'm going to leave that at that. If you think that you should send them death threats, I never want to see or hear from you as a person ever again in my life. It's that simple. And no, I will not compromise. And no, I do not want to hear you argue in the comments. If you attempt to argue in the comments for a reason that you should be able to send death threats to anyone, I will block you. I will remove your comment. You will not be heard. You will not be seen. Goodbye. Whew. Now that that's out of the way, there's a second aspect of this article, which is interesting, that I'm going to go over. It's under their What's Next section. Under their What's Next section, Wizards of the Coast is attempting to create a unified power level structure, which is interesting. The only people that could ever have done it would have been Wizards. Obviously, we've seen from people like EDH Rec have made a giant infographic. If you haven't seen it, you should. It's a very interesting and very cool, informative graphic on how to tell your deck's own power level. But again, that hasn't been official. As this would be coming from Wizards of the Coast, this would be official. Their plan is to take a look at the power levels of certain cards, and then gauge certain decks into those brackets based on what cards they use. Now there's obviously I could pick apart why this format, this idea isn't perfect. They know it's not perfect. They bring up an example here where they used Ancient Tomb as an example specifically, talking about Ancient Tomb would be in their high bracket, their very strong bracket of cards, very strong bracket of decks, which is understandable. It's fast mana, they don't like it. And they also brought up other ideas of cards that would fit into that high bracket. They bring up a very interesting point that kind of counteracts their issue, but brings up something that I wanted to talk about that I harped on a lot on my last video regarding the last ban list. And I've had a lot of time to think it over and simmer it over. And I was heated in the beginning of this video because it's not okay to send death threats to anybody. And I wanted to get that out and I wanted to make that point clear. This is an interesting way to try to balance it, but it brings up the problem that they say here. For example, if Ancient Tomb is a bracket 4 card, aka their high power card, your deck would generally be considered a 4. I'll get to this afterwards. But if it's part of a Tomb themed deck, the conversation may be, my deck is a 4 with Ancient Tomb, but a 2 without it. To give you an idea, they considered high power, very strong decks. The highest power bracket they have available is 4, and precons and decks of that level are 1. So you cut it up how you'd like. There's an issue here, obviously. In no world should a deck that is a 2, considered a 2, a not precon level, but above precon level deck, should never be influenced so greatly by a single card that it is then referred to as is then sent to the highest subsection power level of a deck. That should not be possible at all, unless it's a card that is so absurdly, ridiculously broken, or truly the linchpin of your deck. Then maybe it could be, but there's a problem here. But they hit the nail on the head immediately after. Will this system guarantee perfectly matched games? No. And that might be fine at your table, but if it gets the conversation started from a shared understanding, that's already great for the table. Yes, Wizards. Yes. Again, to just beat it into the ground. No, guys. You don't need a unified power level. You don't need an exact deck rating. I've suggested and talked to my friends something along the lines of a points list for Commander in order to, like, make a unified area that allows expressive deck building, but also requires some restrictions. No, you don't need it. You don't need it. You know what you do need to do? You need to have a conversation at your table. You need to sit down, look across from you, look to the side of you, and you need to look at your opponents, the people that you're going to spend a significant chunk of time playing with for the next hour, 2 hours, maybe more, possibly. Hey, what are we playing? How strong are your cards? Do you have any of these cards? Just trying to get an idea of what we're playing like, how fast we're trying to play, that thing. And the issue is always going to boil down to people don't talk about their decks. And I understand for some people in the community, not to generalize and pick at it, but as someone with experience from Magic the Gathering conventions, Magic the Gathering events, Magic the Gathering experiences online in my local game store, and the people that introduced me to the game itself, generally, people that play Magic the Gathering have a difficult time communicating properly with others. And that's something against you. I'm not trying to harm you or make fun of you when I say that. I understand it can be difficult. But you want to know what gets the mood up immediately whenever I sit down at a table? What has gotten me invited back no matter what decks I play, no matter what power level I play, be it CEDH to precons and battle cruisers, anything in between, bringing sliver decks and strong decks into lower power leveled events, lower power level pods. I sit down. I put a smile on my face. Hey guys, what's everybody playing? I'd love to. What's your deck about? How does it work? I'm just trying to get an idea. I've got a few decks here, and I can swap them in and out. I've actually got this one deck where I can swap the commander around, and it affects the power level because it removes a piece like a central engine out of the command zone. So just tell me, what are we playing at? What are we looking like? How long do we want this game to go? Are there any cards? Do you have any silver bordered cards you want to use as a commander? Because I know some people like to rule zero in silver bordered cards because they built their deck, but then it would be super cool. I had somebody, actually, a few games ago, I had somebody use Risco the Clockmaker. I know, that crazy card from Arena. Yeah, and he had to throw it in there. And it was a bit of a slog, but hey, it was cool to actually see one of these Arena cards played in person. This was before the Mystery Booster thing, obviously. I'm just making examples, but you gotta talk. You're not sitting across from one person because the tournament organizer has said, okay, your match starts then, you have this duration of time to play, and then it goes to rounds after. No! You're sitting there in a format that was designed to show expressive deck building with your friends, with your collection. It's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be something where you sit down and say the fewest amount of words to try to win a match. That's not what Commander is. That's not what it was designed to be. And that's not what it should be. Now, will a unified deck organization system help? Sure. Of course it will. People made the jokes of like a 1 to 9 style deck in the whole, yeah, well, I don't know, my deck's a 7. Well, now we will have some idea. And that's great. In theory, I fully support the ideas that they're going for with this because they're trying to set something down. They're trying to give you some modicum of understanding that anyone can come to a table and just have the bare bones minimum. Hey, what group is this are you guys playing in? Oh, we're playing group 1. Okay, yeah, sorry, my deck's like a 4 generally, group 4, so I just don't think it'll even work. Or hey, we're playing group 1. Oh, well, what decks are you playing? Because I've got this group 2 deck, but it's really not that great. And depending on what you guys are doing in your deck, like you might have a group 1 deck, but it's like all removal, in which case it'll certainly muck up somebody's creature deck. You know what I mean? It's all fluctuating. It all depends on circumstance. So the power brackets are great just for a general guideline. But guys, you gotta talk to your opponents and you gotta talk to your playgroup. Please. It's like the most important thing. They finish off by talking about talking about the weekly MTG stream that's going to be happening tomorrow, which you guys should go check out on their Twitch page, and also talking about a few other things, like they're going to be evaluating the current banned cards list, which is interesting. It sounds to me like they're going to, go back on some of the decisions that the rules committee has made, which I will not discuss in this video because I will not speculate as to what they're going to do. But just note that it might happen. And again, and I completely share their statement with Wizards, which I don't necessarily do all the time these days. For now, the safety and well-being of the rules committee is the priority. What has happened this past week is entirely unacceptable. By working together as a team, as a community, as a group, we can shoulder responsibility of this format and everything that comes along with it. So please, please show your support, send your love. The people of the rules committee aren't out of a job now or out of the loop. They're still going to be helping Wizards in some capacity. They talked about in this article. Please take your time, read the article, understand what's happening, but just talk, please. Be a community that talks to each other, talks together, whether it's a small friend group, whether it's your local game store, whether it's an entire Discord of people that you play with, something. And if you want to know one thing that you can do to help further a large number of people's games, your friends' games, your pods, just try to be the person that sits down and says something. You will be so surprised at how willing some people are to talk. The moment that somebody just gets the ball rolling. Once you do, you might make new friends. You might find cool ideas for new decks. You'll never know. This community is amazing. It is. There are some phenomenal deck builders in this community. There are amazing players, amazing artists, amazing people. But you gotta talk to them. You just gotta talk. That's what it comes down to. Please talk. They would like to hear what you would think about the power brackets and what certain cards you would place into. So if you'd like to talk to Wizards in a helpful capacity, send them, I don't know, at them on Twitter. Something. Go to the Discord. Go to their Discord. Talk about it. Be social. Be social. So, that's it. And I'll see you guys next time. Hopefully, not in another Commander a ban announcement or something along these lines. But from the sounds of it, I feel like I'm going to be making another one of these videos before I make anything else. So I hope you guys have enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.